Hello, Tim from Fairplay Now on the 17th of November 2022. Just trying out a slightly different angle here. Don't know if you think it's any better or worse than the normal angle that I do in this vehicle. But anyway, first of all, the London shopping trip this coming Saturday. I mentioned it a few days ago, but I didn't know at the time where the location was going to be. But I can tell you now that it's going to be Hyde Park, 1 o'clock, and the Hyde Park corner end of Hyde Park. So I believe if there's any difference to that, I'll soon tell you, but it's definitely Hyde Park anyway. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it's the Hyde Park corner end of it. And being a nationwide one, there will be other locations. I believe I had a subscriber tell me that the Glasgow one is Glasgow Green, again I think at 1 o'clock, and pretty sure there's going to be other ones. I haven't really seen any details of any of the other ones, so you might want to look out for those details yourselves, you know, in the Telegram groups and stuff. But if I come across further details in the next day or so, I'll soon tell you. Another bit of housekeeping. I've got a lovely subscriber called Alison who wanted me to give a shout out about an interview that she did with a gentleman, and they were discussing these 15-minute cities. I talked about this a few days ago, and it is yet another imposition that the powers that shouldn't be want to put on us to restrict our freedoms, and it's something that needs to be resisted, and resisted with a lot of vigor, I would say. So this interview is on YouTube, so I'll leave a link to it in the description box and the comment section below here, so do go and check that out. So the main thing I want to talk about is I saw a video, relatively short video this morning, and it was this young lady from this country, sounded English, and she was talking about how she was having one of those conversations with her very mainstream parents, and how she's not looking forward to Christmas dinner with them because of a conversation she had, sounds like pretty recently. And she said she was just starting to talk about central bank digital currencies and how it's a worry, it's a concern. She didn't even really get into more of the truther side of it. She was just going on about how Sunak was going on about it, really. And the mum just turned around, cut her off pretty much by the sounds of it, and said, I haven't heard about it on the BBC, so I don't think it's anything to worry about. It probably means it's not going to happen. And this young lady just couldn't believe it, as indeed you and me can't believe it either. But that just shows you the mentality we're up against, doesn't it? You know, so many people out there just think that the BBC is the font of all knowledge and truth. You know, if you're from another country, I'm sure you've got your equivalents, RTE in Ireland and CNN in etc. in the States, but obviously here it's the BBC. And yeah, people just hang on their every word, even though it's quite obvious that they don't tell the full truth. But I suppose people of a certain age have grown up with the BBC. It's been a constant friend there all their lives, all the way from the early stuff, Jack and Ori, and the children's TV that they used to have, and then Doctor Who during their maybe slightly older and teenage years that they watched, and then all of the great programs they've had on ever since, and what people perceive to be truthful news, and they can't get it into their heads that anything would have changed and that they would be either downright lying or at least not telling the truth now. And they've kind of got no concept that the powers that shouldn't be can infiltrate these things purely and simply by donating to it or buying shares in them. Not necessarily the BBC, obviously, but the more commercial TV and radio stations and mainstream media, you know, press, etc. They can either buy loads of shares or make huge donations, which we know the Bill and Mel Foundation have done with the BBC, and that of course gives them influence, doesn't it? Gives them influence over what the BBC, etc., puts out. And these people have got no concept that these organisations now have these conflicts of interest, and they are incapable of giving you the full truth that so many people out there think that they're getting. Kind of reminds me a little bit of planes being taken over, not hijacked, but just taken over by bad actors that you'd normally trust. There's been a spate of air accidents in the last 20 years where basically either the captain or the first officer have just gone basically crazy, sort of locked the other one out of the cockpit and then proceeded to crash the plane into mountains like the Germanwings one a few years ago. And then there was a couple in the Far East that's happened like that as well. Probably was what happened to sort of Malaysian Airlines MH370. That's almost certainly what happened there, I'd have thought. So we know from just that example that people you think you can trust 100%, and which forever you have been able to trust 100%, you can't necessarily do so. And if you can just imagine that the BBC has gone rogue because they're taking payments from bad actors, we'll call them, well, that is proof, really, or not proof, but it has to start putting questions into your head. Can I really trust this organisation anymore? Of course, we know that, but people like this young lady's mum and so many other people you know, people I know, well, they just still think that the BBC is what they were like 20 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever. And they really aren't. You really can't trust them. And putting that across to people is so difficult, though. If you tell people, well, you can't trust the BBC, they'll just think you've gone loopy, won't they? They really will think you've just lost the plot. And unfortunately, this is the case. There is good news. Apparently, all over the place, more and more people are beginning to lose trust in the mainstream media. And I think in some places it's up to 50% of people don't trust organisations like that anymore. But there are so many people who do still place all of their trusts into them. And yeah, you just can't do it. You can't do it anymore. If that's one thing I could teach people, is just do not trust your government. Do not trust your media, your BBC, your Daily Mail, Daily Fail we call them, the Telegraph. None of them are to be trusted anymore. You've just got to take what they say with a pinch of salt. look into some other sources of information. There's plenty out there online now, and just don't get this idea into your head that anything that goes against the mainstream is oh that's mad conspiracy theory. It's not. I'm telling you, it's not. It is for real, a lot of this stuff. And really, as I keep banging on, you can't trust the BBC, etc. And you just need to start asking a few questions, start looking into a few other sources of information, start asking hard questions, and switch off the BBC, really, would be the best option for you, I reckon. Anyway, this has turned into a little bit of a rant. So before I end, I'll just give you a quick reminder about the London shopping trip. Hyde Park, 1 p.m. this Saturday the 19th. If you're going, I'll see you there. So greatly looking forward to that. And I'll be back tomorrow. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.